Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be discussing what is literature, the meaning of literature. To many people, when the word literature is mentioned, what comes to their mind is novel, collection of poems, plays, drama text. But is that all that constitutes literature? We are going to find out. Please subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell so that you get notified when the video on the functions and importance of literature is uploaded. So literature, what does it really mean? In the first definition, we are going to be looking at literature as the offshoot of the word literate. Now, how is literature derived? It's an offshoot of the word literate. And then what is the meaning of literate? We can say it is the ability to read and write. So in this sense, we can refer to literature as a description of printed materials which give instruction as well as information and used to express ourselves. So when somebody can read, can write, we can say he is engaging in an art of literature. But is that all about literature? No. So let's go to the second definition. And the second definition, we engage in a broader view of literature. And we say that literature is not only the ability to read and write, but as well as a collection of written books, written things, written documents, and also oral work. The oral work are those work that are not specifically written down, especially in our conventional books or document. It could be something that you learned maybe from your tradition, and then it is passed to you from your parents, then from your or from your society. It is passed to you, and then you also teach your children or those who comes after you. And then we can also refer to literature specifically to be an art form such as fiction, prose fiction, drama, and poetry, in contrast to academic writing and newspaper. So in this definition, we see that literature is not just only the body of written a document. Then we differentiate between what we call literature and other forms of writing. Then when we discuss literature in this sense, we refer to those aspects of literature we refer to as drama, as prose, and then as poetry. So the writing in prose, in drama and poetry differs from the conventional writing such as academic writing. Maybe when somebody is writing about journal an article to publish in journal, we can refer to it as literature in one sense, but in a specific term, we cannot refer to that as a form of literature, especially maybe writing in publications in newspaper also, because of the form that it took. It is just proselyting, conventional writing, and then maybe divided into different paragraphs. But in literature, is the writing only divided to paragraphs, to maybe stanzas? No. We also have art and scene, and even we have chapters in prose writing. So in recent centuries, the definition of literature has expanded to now include oral literature, as I told you, and much of which has been transcribed. In Africa especially, there are several oral literature that have not been transcribed, that have not been written down. It is still being passed from generation to generation using words, using oral words instead of maybe writing. So you cannot go to school or probably to library and find such tradition in a book to read. Rather, your parents, the society, and some of the custodians of culture in your environment will be the one to tell you about that. So that also includes the broad definition of literature. Then in the third definition, we refer to literature as an artistic composition in three forms: in prose form, which is mostly in chapters and paragraphs, and then in drama form, which is mostly in art and scene, and also in poetry form, which is stanzas and verse. So this type of literature is always imaginative in nature because it is a product of the writer's imagination. And imagination is what you conceive, you think, and write, not really that it is true or it is a fact. So some experts or scholars argue that literature should be regarded as only imaginative work. But does that constitute or encompass the entire literature? If you ask me, I will say no, because we have other aspects of literature which we will meet in the next definition. So this definition regards literature as those imaginative aspects of writing, like novels, like plays. If you have read The Tempest by William Shakespeare, or Much Ado About Nothing, those are plays. And maybe novels like Things Fall Apart, The Mile of Casterbridge, all those are novels. And poems like The Rape of Lock, and then some of the poems of the Unstamped Letter in an Unstamped Book by John Donne, poems like No Coffin, No Grave by Jared Angira. So all those imaginative writing are regarded as literature. So the artists usually invent the stories and characters in order to promote reflection in the work of art. So it comprises plays, novels, poems, and short stories. In our next video, we'll be discussing all those novels, poems, and short stories. Then another definition of poetry is the one that another definition of literature is the one that regards literature as a body of written work, and not just as the body of written work. Generally, the name has traditionally been applied to those imaginative work of poetry and prose distinguished by the intention of their author and the perceived aesthetic excellence of their execution. Now, this definition focuses on the aesthetics of writing. How is the work constructed? Does it meet the qualities of a good prose fiction? Does it meet the qualities of a good drama text or play? So some scholars argue that for a work of art to be regarded as literature, it must have an excellent aesthetics. It must have a lot of literary embellishment. It must be literally furnished, not just that someone composed a story or composed or maybe any information in form of a written text, and we regard it as literature. But literature has to be the one that possesses a lot of qualities that literature constitute. So literature may be classified according to a variety of systems, including language, national origin, historical period, genre, and subject matter. So how can we regard some texts or some writings as literature? Some scholars also argue that we can regard them as literature by also looking at the language aesthetics, and also even the origin of the writing. Is it an oral work transcribed or documented? And also some can look at it as the historical period of the work of art can also determine whether it can be regarded as literature. So let's go to another definition. This definition regards literature as a field of study. So as a field of study, we can say that literature is a form or an art of expression that concerns itself with not just what is expressed, but the manner of its expression as well. So in this aspect, literature places emphasis on aesthetics and elegance of expression. So we can go to school and study literature as a course of study. So in this sense, literature is not just a body of written work and imaginative expression, but a field of study which a student or an aspiring student can go to school and study. At secondary education level, you can offer it as one of your subjects, and at university, you can pick an aspect of literature and study as your career. You can pick maybe a comparative literature. You can pick post-colonial literature, romantic literature, Victorian literature, and several other aspects of literature. So in this sense, literature is regarded as a field of study, not just a body of written work, not just a body of imaginative works, but a field of study which can be studied for a career. Then another definition is that literature is an art form. And as an art form, it includes works in various non-fiction, such as autobiography, diary, memoir, letters, and essays. So note that in one of the definitions, I think definition 3, we regarded literature as an imaginative work. Then in this definition, literature is not just an imaginative work only, it includes the work that are true or facts. Now, if you write an autobiography is a writing about yourself. You write a book or a story about your own life. Is called an autobiography. And the memoir is also part of autobiography in the sense that you write about a particular event or a particular period of time in your life. You maybe if you are a student in a university, maybe your experiences in your year 1, you can write it as part of your life story. That is regarded as memoir. It is not the entire life or not your entire life history, maybe from when you were born to when we are probably you have gotten old and then you write. Now, memoir is a particular part or a particular period of your life which you document. Then letters also. Later, maybe you write a letter to your parents, to your friends, to your brothers. All those also are regarded as part of literature. So in this definition, we mean that literature is not only imaginative work and a body of written work, it also includes facts or what you can regard as true. Maybe writing about your life history is facts about yourself. Then it also includes biography. Essays that has to do with factual incidents. So you can also study this as a field of study, non-fiction literature. They are generally categorized as non-fiction literature. Then, these are some of the definitions of literature. Then how did literature even originate? Where did it originate from? What is the origin of literature? Now, literature is an English word, but it does not originate from English language. It originates from Latin language called litera. And if we are to give a direct interpretation of litera, it means letter of the alphabet. And the plural form is litera, which we can loosely translate as letters. So this means that originally the term literature means anything written down or writing or a kind of writing. So in today's society, we have a lot of aspect of literature. We have a lot of writing about people's life, which is fact, which we regard as non-fiction. We have a lot of stories from the moon, from imaginative invention, which we regard as fiction. And we have aspect of literature, which we can regard as just any written work of art. Then, in the 18th century, the definition of literature begin to expand and evolve. In fact, it changes as the years progress. So the term of literature in the 18th century took a modern use, and it does not only mean the work of art again, but as I said earlier, it broadly encompasses all aspects of written work. And the current meaning of literature generally attached to the term literature is that it is a body of writing by people or by peoples using the same language orally or in written form. So we can regard an aspect of literature as an African literature, another one as European literature, another one as American literature, Asian literature. And even when you go to maybe African literature, you can regard some aspect as Nigerian literature, as Kenyan literature, Ghana literature, South African literature. So all this has to do with a lot of cultures and the worldview of the people in these particular geographical locations. So literature also reflects people's culture. We are going to be discussing this more in our discussion on the importance of literature. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell. Thank you and have a nice day.